Hello and welcome to today's video where we're going over the jungle role. Yesterday we went over top lane, and we have a couple key stats up here I'd like to look at. Share percentages and return on investment, which is simply damage divided by gold. We have the teams on here instead of the players because some teams did utilize multiple players in a given role. So the purpose of this is to look at which junglers did a ton of work with the gold they were given, in terms of share and in terms of share amount. So share, how much of the resources were actually given to a player over the summer regular season, and how much damage came from that. Keep in mind, this does benefit those that are carries, and then we see more facilitators, and that they also have value, right? Facilitators do have value, and somebody else on the team is dealing damage, and sometimes just everybody's dealing a ton of damage, which will end up over here. Somebody could theoretically be on this side, but then still be over here if the team is just good enough that everybody's dealing damage. So the most efficient jungler was Beshwan of Thundertalk. Relative to the gold he was receiving, he put out 5.5% more damage, which was nearly a full percentage point more than Kanavi, Meteor, and then actually Boogie Tomio. So that's the interesting thing. So Beshwan, with FPX, carry-oriented jungler, I really enjoyed watching him play with FPX back in the day. With Thundertalk, I thought he would produce more, and it's been a rough time. And right after I doubted him, this carry meta comes into play, and he shows why he is one of the best carry-oriented junglers in the world. Meteor, not a shock, doing very well. Kanavi, also. Some people were surprised by Meteor's success, but that's not a... if you've paid attention to Meteor's career, you wouldn't have been surprised. This is his bread and butter. This is where his value lies. Now, Tomio and Boogie, that's an interesting thing to consider, because Boogie has played on bad teams prior. Not bad teams, but teams that are not as skilled. So for him to take on the carry role, that is something he's done, and Tomio did some work in his games. NRG contracts 3%. Then we have JJ of EDG. EDG struggled. That's why JJ is not over here, because in the end, the return on investment wasn't really there. Hacker with Ultra Prime had a really good placement. 100 Thieves River, similar to the Boogie situation. And then Weibo's Tarzan, very efficient as well. The junglers that were more facilitators. Linkus for Vitality, not a shock. Seeing his career and how he came up, seeing him play facilitators is not a surprise to me. Some people thought he would do a lot better. He was a rookie, and it'd be wrong to be upset with how people treated Douglas if Linkus is being treated the same way. Umpty of Team Liquid, everybody on TL dealt damage except Umpty, so that's kind of the deal there, at least in that department. SK's Isma, facilitator. Immortals are Mayo, facilitator. Rare Adam Zhao Hao. Maybe this is why Rare Adam struggled a bit, because Zhao Hao appears on both lower ends of here. Like, he took on that facilitator role and allowed Vikla to play whatever he wanted and Zhao Zhu to play whatever he wanted. But Zhao Hao was the player that I think should have been the carry over Zhao Zhu. Nip, Aki, better as a facilitator. Peanut of HLE, one of the greatest facilitators in his role all time. So he's going to thrive. He's going to make things happen. We talked about it on the Discord this morning. Gerbil brought up a good point about how Peanut got HLE a lot of their leads. You look at his champion pool, it's very facilitator-based. Honestly, if they can go to Worlds, he will be one of the very few facilitator junglers there based on the champion pools from summer. Fnatic Razork, that's a surprise. Razork better as a carry, but that happened. KC Closer, not a shock. D plus Lucid should have been on carries, but was placed on facilitators and had a great split. But at the same time, kind of held back in my opinion. They kind of just, eased him in. Last two, Pyoshik and Juhan. So KT, 9-9. Most carry-oriented player on that team is Pyoshik. Like, BDD did end up leading in return on investment for the LCK, so he's going to be on this side of the board tomorrow. But Pyosik is historically a pretty good carry-oriented jungler. The Kindred, obviously, is his namesake. But that was not what they played him on, really. He was not dealing a ton of damage. And honestly, that's probably one of the reasons why KT had the issues they did. And Juhan, it's not a surprise. Not a surprise. Giant X is kind of a little bit of a disaster. And then also, Jackie's is a really big outlier. Let's just put it that way. Tomorrow we'll go over that. Return on investment. So, damage divided by gold outright. This is not necessarily percentages. It's just, hey, if you dealt 500 gold damage per 400 gold, that's the deal. So, Bechuan led 1.71. Then we have, the same teams, really, the top 5. It's Meteor, Kanavi, River, and then the Shopify Rebellion duo, followed by Contracts, and then a big drop-off. So, actually, the drop-off from Bechuan to Contracts is equal to Contracts to the next player. And the group of players in the 1.46 to 1.40 range is like 10 to 12. A lot of players in this role this past summer played carry-oriented champions and dealt a lot of damage. So that's just the kind of the deal here. These guys are clearly above that group, and these ones are clearly below the majority. So that's the thing. At the lower end of things, like I said, Zhao Hao down here. Marcoon of Rogue. Not a big carry-oriented player for him to deal not a lot of damage. Not a surprise. And then the same parties here. Peanut, Linkus, Razork, Lucid. A drop-off to Pyosik, and then a further drop-off to Juhan and Closer. So those bottom three of the 4 here, and then the bottom 3 outright over here, dealt less damage than they had gold. And you may say, well, this... No, it's like we have facilitators up here that still came out positive. They still found a way to deal more damage than they got gold while being a facilitator. We talked about Peanut. Played 11 Sejuani games. That's 1/4 of his entire season, and yet still ends up in the positive, where Pyosik, Juhan, and Closer didn't even get there. So that is a thing. It's not a surprise, too, to see LPL teams towards the top. It is a more aggressive region, so they are going to deal way more damage. We're not going to find them really necessarily down here. We have Rare Atom there, and that's it. And then we have Aki, but Nip in general dealt a ton of damage. If you missed yesterday's video, actually Shanji led the entire world in return on investment for the top lane. So that is a thing. So so comment down below if you liked the video, like it, subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, become a YouTube supporter, and hope to see you again tomorrow.